Hello, hi everyone. In this lesson, we are going to learn about direct and indirect speech. Okay? And there are two ways of relating what a person has said, direct and indirect. In direct speech, we repeat the original speaker's exact words. For example, in here, he said, I have lost my umbrella. So he directly said, and we are speaking the words that person exactly said. So he said, I have lost my umbrella. Okay? I hope you got it. Great. Now, remarks thus repeated are placed between inverted commas, and a comma is placed immediately before the remark. Direct speech is found in conversations, in books, in plays, and in quotations. In indirect speech, we give the exact meaning of a remark of a speech without necessarily using the speaker's exact words. For example, he said that he had lost his umbrella. So we are not saying the words of the speaker, but we are saying it to the other person in an indirect speech, right? So that's how it works. And the next, there is no comma after say in indirect speech. That can usually be omitted after say and tell plus object, but it should be kept after other verbs complain, explain, object, point out, protest, etc. Indirect speech is normally used when conversation is reported verbally, though direct speech is sometimes here to give a more dramatic effect. When we turn direct speech into indirect speech, some changes are usually necessary. Pronouns and adjectives changes necessary. So, first and second person pronouns and possessive adjectives normally change to the third person, except when the speaker is reporting his own words. I equals to he, she, me equals to him, her, my equals to his, her, mine, uh, his, and hers, we, they, like that. She said, she's my son. She said that she was her son, right? And here, this is the direct speech, and this is the indirect speech. As he said, he's my son. That's direct. She just spoke exactly the words that person said, and in here, she said that he was her son. Like, okay, indirect speech. And now, in here, I'm ill. She said, I'm ill. So in here, I'm ill. So in here, in direct speech, it is said as she said that she was ill, right? So um, I'm ill, she said. So that's direct speech, and she said that she was ill. So I hope you got it. Great. Next, now this, these. This used in time expressions usually becomes that. She said she is coming this week. She said that she was coming that week. Okay? So great. And this and that used as adjectives usually change to the. She said, I bought this pearl, these pearls for my mother. Got it? He said that he had bought the pearls for his mother. Got it? Great. And this, these, used as pronouns can become it, they, them. He came back with two knives and said, I found these beside the king's bed. He said he has found them beside the king's bed. And he said, we will discuss this tomorrow. He said that they would discuss it, the matter, the next day. Got it? Perfect. And now, expressions of time and place in indirect speech. Adverbs and adverbial phrases of time change as follows. For example, in indirect speech and in uh, indirect and also in direct speech. Indirect and indirect speech. Let's watch it. So in direct speech, it is said as today, and in indirect is that day. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, 2 days before, tomorrow, the next day, the following day, the day after tomorrow, in 2 days' time, next week, year, etc. In following week, year, last week, year, previous week, year, a year, a year before, the previous year, a year ago. So great. And let's look at some examples, okay? Great. I saw her the day before yesterday, he said. He said he would seen he had seen her 2 days before. He said he had seen her 2 days before. Great. And I'll do it tomorrow, he promised. He promised that he would do it the next day. She said, my father died a year ago. She said that her father had died a year before the previous year. Like that. Wonderful. But if the speech is made and reported on the same day, these time changes are not necessary. Let's look at some examples. At breakfast this morning, she said, I'll be very busy today. At breakfast this morning, he said that he would be very busy today. Did you observe? Great. Here here can become there, but only when it is clear what place is meant. At the station, he said, I'll be here again tomorrow. He said that he would be he would be there again the next day. Great. Usually here has to be replaced by some phrase. Here. He said, you can sit here, Tom. She told her that he could sit beside her. Great. Now, let's look at some other things in here. The statements in indirect speech, tense change necessary in indirect speech. Let's look at it. And indirect speech can be introduced by a verb in a present tense. He says that this is usually when we are. Let's look at it. Reporting a conversation that is still going on. Reading a letter and reporting what it says. Reading instructions and reporting them. Reporting a statement that someone makes very often. Example: Tom says that he'll never get married. So Tom says that he will never get married, reporting a statement that someone makes very often, he says all the time. Okay, great. And the next with the in here, yeah, when the introductory verb is in a present perfect, or future tense, we can report the direct speech without any change of tense. Yes, Paul, I'm trying to get a taxi. And Anne is to Mary, who is standing beside her. Paul says he is trying to get a taxi. Paul says, uh, he is trying to get a taxi. Great. But indirect speech is usually introduced by a verb in the past tense. Verbs in the direct speech have then to be changed into a corresponding past tense. The changes are shown in the following table. See, look at this table, you will understand. And in direct speech, as a simple present is said as I never eat meat. He explained. So in indirect speech, it is said as simple past. He explained that he never ate meat. I'm sorry. He explained that he never ate meat. So in indirect speech, it goes to simple past. Very nice. And now, in the direct speech, it is present continuous. I'm waiting for Anne, he said. So in indirect speech, it goes past continuous. He said that he was waiting for Anne, is past continuous. Great. Present perfect. I have found a flat, he said. That's the present perfect. And and it becomes past perfect. He said that he had found a flat. Great. And present perfect continuous. He said, I have been waiting for ages. As present perfect continuous. And it becomes past perfect continuous. He said that he had been waiting for ages. So is still going on. Great. Now, simple past. I took it home with me, he said, and it becomes past perfect. She said that he had taken it home with her. This is past perfect. It becomes next future and indirect speeches. He said, I will be in Paris on Monday. Conditional is he said that he would be in Paris on Monday. Next, future continuous and in a direct speech. And I will be using the car myself on the uh, 24 hour, she said in here, like 24th hour. Okay, and conditional continuous. She said that she would be using the car herself on the 24th. Correct? Great. And conditional, and I said I would like to see it. And in direct speech, it becomes I said that I would like to see it. Great. And now all those changes represent the distancing effect of the reported speech. Common sense, together with the time aspect from the speaker's point of view, are more important than the rules when making the usual changes. Questions and indirect speech. Let's look at it. Now, in here, in direct question, it is said as um, he said, "Where is she going?" So, in indirect speech, it is said as he asked where she was going. So, this is indirect. So, he asked where she was going. Great. And then now, if you can see, when we turn direct questions into indirect speech, the following changes are necessary. Let's look at it. Tenses, pronouns, and possessive adjectives and adverbs of time and place change as in statements. The interrogative form of the verb changes to the affirmative form. Now, the question mark is omitted in indirect questions. Let's look at some examples. If the introductory verb is say, it must be changed to a verb of inquiry. Example: ask, wonder, want to know, exact, etc. Now, in here he said, "Where is the station?" And in indirect, it is said as he asked where the station was. Okay, that's indirect speech. Now, ask can be followed by the person addressed, indirect object. He asked, "What have you got in your bag?" He asked me what I had got in my bag. Okay? Now, but wonder and want to know cannot take an indirect object. So, if we wish to report a question where the person addressed is mentioned, we must use ask. For example, he said, "Mary, when is the next train?" He asked Mary when the next train was. Wonderful. Now, in here, um, if the direct question begins with a question word, when, where, who, have, why, etc., the question word is repeated in the indirect question. He said, "Why didn't you put on the brake?" And in indirect speech, it goes, he asked her why she hadn't put on the brake. Great. And now, she asked, "What do you want?" And in indirect speech, it is said as she asked them what they wanted. Great. And now, in here, if there is no question word, if or whether must be used. If there is no question word, for example, is anyone there? He asked. He asked if anyone was there. Great. Now, a commands, requests, advice, and indirect speech. Direct command. He said, "Lie down, Tom." An indirect command, it is said as he told Tom to lie down. Great. Indirect commands, requests, advice are usually expressed by a verb of command, request, advice plus object plus infinitive. The following verbs can be used: advise, ask, beg, command, order, remind, tell, warn, etc. He said, "Get your coat, Tom." So in here, Tom told, he told Tom to get his coat. Wonderful. And in here, negative commands, requests, etc., are usually reported by not plus infinitive. Don't swim out too far, boys. I said, I warned the boys not to swim out too far. Great. Wonderful. And here, exclamations and indirect speech. So let's look at it. Exclamations usually become statements in indirect speech. The exclamation mark disappears. So exclamations beginning what or how can be reported by exclaim, say that. And he said, "What a dreadful idea," or "How dreadful." He exclaimed that it was a dreadful idea, like that. Okay? Wonderful. Give an exclamation of delight, disgust, horror, relief, surprise, etc. And if the exclamation is followed by an action, we can use the contraction with an exclamation of delight, disgust, etc., plus he, she, plus verb. Yes. Other types of exclamation, such as good, marvelous, splendid, heavens, how, oh, etc., can be reported as in these examples. Let's look at it. Good. He exclaimed. He gave an exclamation of pleasure, satisfaction. Good. He exclaimed means he gave an exclamation of pleasure and satisfaction. Great. She exclaimed and turned the program off. With an exclamation of disgust, she turned the program off. It means that she's in angry, and that exclamation mark shows that feeling, for example. Also, note also, he said thank you. He thanked me. He said good luck. He wished me luck. He said happy Christmas. He wished me a happy Christmas. He said congratulations. He congratulated me. He said liar. He called me a liar. He said damn. He's four. The notice said, "Welcome to Wales." The notice welcomed visitors to Wales. Great. Now, in here, yes and no and indirect speech. So, S and no are expressed in indirect speech by subject plus appropriate auxiliary verb. Let's look at it. He said, "Can you swim?" And I said, "No." He asked me if I could swim, and I said I couldn't. So, great. And he said, "Will you have time to do it?" And I said, "Yes." He asked if I would have time to do it, and I said that I would. Great. Offers and suggestions and indirect speech. So, offers. "Shall I bring you some tea?" Uh, could be reported, "He offered to bring me some tea." Great. And suggestions. "Shall we meet at the theater?" Could be reported, He suggested meeting at the theater. Great. Indirect speech, mixed types. Direct speech may consist of statement plus question, question plus command, command plus statement, or all three together. Normally, each requires its own introductory verb. Let's look at it. I don't know the way. Do you? He asked. He said he didn't know the way and asked her if she did, if she knew it. So I don't know the I know way. I asked somebody if she knows it. I don't know the way, do you? Oh, even I don't know. So they're lost. Now, the next one. He said, someone is coming. Get behind the screen. He said that someone was coming and told me to get behind the screen. Great. Reported speech. Other points. Must after a past reporting verb. Must does not usually change. For example, he said it must be pretty late. I really must go. He said that it must be pretty late and he really must go. He said that it must be pretty late and he really must go. Great. And had to is also possible in reported speech, but this is really the past of have to, must not. So let's look at it. He said, I have to go. I have an appointment in half an hour. He said that he had to go because he had an appointment in half an hour. So that's incorrect speech. So now, modal verbs. Past modal verbs. Could, might, ought to, should, used to, etc. Do not normally a change in reported speech. Great. He said, I might come. He said that he might come. Okay, great. He said, I would help him if I could. He said that he would help him if he could. Great. He said, you didn't wait. He said that I didn't wait. Great. Now, conditionals. Conditional sentences type to remain unchanged. He said, if my children were older, I would immigrate. So, like that. He said that if his children were older, he would immigrate. Immigrate. So, wonderful. Say and tell as introductory verbs. Now, say and tell with direct speech. So, say can introduce a statement or follow it. Tom said, I have just heard the news. I have just heard the news, Tom said. Great. Now, in this inversion, a say and noun subject is possible when say follows the statement. I have just heard the news, said Tom. Say plus to plus person addressed is possible, but this phrase must follow the direct statement. It cannot introduce it. I'm leaving at once, Tom said to me. Inversion is not possible here, and tell requires the person addressed. Tell me, he told us. I'll tell you. I'll tell Tom. Right? Okay? All right? And except with tell lies, stories, the truth, the time when the person addressed need not to be mentioned. He told me lies. I'll tell a story. He told lies. Um, I, I'll tell a story. So, great. A tell used with direct speech must be placed after the direct statement. Great. Now, I'm leaving at once, Tom told me. I'm leaving at once, Tom told me. Say and tell with direct speech. Indirect statements are normally introduced by say or tell plus object. Say plus to plus object is possible but less usual than tell plus object. Let's look at it. In here, he said he would just, he had just heard the news. So in here, when you see this thing, it also means that he would and also he had. So you have to be so careful while you are understanding something. Okay? In this sentence, it is he said he had just heard the news. Okay? Great. He told me that he had just heard the news. Great. Now, note also tell how about. So, he told us how he had crossed the mountains. He told us about crossing the mountains. He told us about his journeys. Journeys. So, great. And you did a great job. Thank you. And thank you. Oh, my handwriting. Thank you for watching. And this is all for today. Thank you very much. And I'm going to see you in the next video with the new concept. Thank you.